So today I'm going to walk you through some of the housekeeping tasks that we need to do to make sure that we are staying organized for this class. So before I get started, what I do want you to do is, although it's not posted here yet, the video that you are watching right now will be posted at the top. So what I'd like for you to do is to please set up your desktop so that you have this video showing and you have your drive open in a second window. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, if you could please pause this tutorial and set up your desktop the way that you see mine here, and we'll get started on our housekeeping. Okay, so today we are going to be doing the list of things that you see here. We're going to change our download settings if that's possible. Sometimes it's difficult to do because the district has certain settings that you as a student are not allowed to change, but we'll see if we can change that. We're going to add some bookmarks, and you can see here that what's in the parentheses is the folder that each bookmark is going to go into, which means we're going to have to create a folder as well. And then on our drive, we're going to create some folders inside of our Mrs. Norris folder. So you can see that I have my Mrs. Norris folder open and ready to add those files, okay, those folders. When we're done, we're going to move all of our desktop and downloads files into their correct folder. And then what you're going to do is keep your drive open. So your drive, and raise your hand so that I can check your work. I need to check your work before you can move on to an assignment, whether you started that assignment or not. So if you don't have your drive folder for this class open yet, please do so. And we're going to move on. Well, let's start with changing our download settings. So in the top right-hand corner of your window is the customize and control settings for Google Chrome. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, the three dots. That's our vertical ellipses. And I'm going to go down to settings. So just to show you again, vertical ellipses, settings. I'll show you one more time, vertical ellipses, and settings. Okay, so you can see a new tab has opened, and I'm going to change my settings. Okay, now the easiest thing to do, rather than going through each of these menus to try and find where you want your what setting you want to change, I'm going to type it in the search settings search bar up at the top. So I'm going to write downloads, DOWNLOADS, and you can see that it's already starting to show. So go ahead and type downloads and then wait for me. Okay, so you can see the very last option is the location of saving any downloads from Chrome. And I have mine currently set to desktop. Most of you have yours set to the downloads folder. So what I want to do is I want to click change, and I want to select desktop. So I want to make sure that my files are going to be saved directly to my desktop. So go ahead and change your setting so that it's desktop and click select. And it should now say desktop here, okay? We're also going to leave this feature off where it asks us where we're going to save before each time we download. So that's not what we want to do anymore. So make sure that it says desktop here before you move on. And let's go to our next task. So we're going to create these bookmarks, and it says here the folder that we're going to save them in. And we do have a new folder. So I'm going to go ahead and in a blank area here on my bookmarks bar, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add a folder. So again, somewhere in the blank area on my bookmarks bar up here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add folder. And it says that I'm going to have a folder named STEM Sites. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in, STEM-SITES. Go ahead and create that new folder, call it STEM Sites, and then click Save. Now I can't see it there, but if I click on my extension arrows here, it shows up at the end of my list. So I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag it so that it's next to my typing practice folder. Okay, so now I have my new folder ready, and I'm going to start saving these bookmarks in my different folders. Now, Tinkercad, we're going to save right directly onto our bookmarks bar, and then Scratch and Drawio onto our STEM sites folder, and then HOC, which is Hour of Code, into our coding folder. So let's start with Tinkercad. So I'm going to click it. It's going to open up in this window, and I'm going to move it to my window on the right. So I'm going to click on Tinkercad. When the link opens, I'm going to move it to my window on the right. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I save this in my on my bookmarks bar. Okay, so I have Tinkercad bookmarks bar. Once those two things are done, it says Tinkercad. I can leave it with the name that's already there, and then it should be on my bookmarks bar, and then I'm going to click done. Okay, now again, I don't see it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it so that it's next to my STEM sites folder. All right, let's go to the next one, which is Scratch. Okay, and we're going to just create a link, bookmark for this, and it's going to go into that STEM sites folder. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the star. I'm going to change it. Mine, I already have a different folder, so I'm going to change it to STEM sites. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have Scratch in our STEM sites folder, and then click done. And I'm going to do the same thing to Drawio. I'm not worrying about creating any accounts right now. When I do use these, for example, when I use Drawio, I'm going to make sure I'm saving things onto my drive. When I create an account on Scratch, I'm going to do that when I get to that point in the class, but I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm just creating the bookmarks. So I'm going to go ahead and create a bookmark for this as well. Again, in my STEM sites folder, I'm going to change the name of this to draw.io, draw.io in my STEM sites folder, and then I'm going to click done. So now my STEM sites folder has Scratch and Drawio, and I can use that later when I get to those activities in the class. And then I have my Tinkercad, and now the last thing I need to do is add the hour of coding. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the hour of coding, and I'm going to add this into my coding folder. So I'm going to click on the star. I'm going to delete all this extra stuff so that it just says hour of code, and I'm going to change it to my coding folder. So hour of code in my coding folder. When those two things are done, go ahead and click done. Okay, so at this moment, if you have not done any of those things before we move on to the drive folders, go ahead and pause this tutorial and do those steps that we just went over. If you don't understand, rewind and come back to it. And then we're going to move on to drive folders when you come back. All right, so we're ready to create these drive folders. Now, the point of the drive folders is to keep our regular desktop on our computer clean. We don't want to just throw these images and PDFs into the trash because we might need them later. So I'm going to create 3 folders. I'm going to create one that says Tinkercad images, one that says code screenshots, and one that says PDFs. So I'm going to right click, new folder. I'm going to call it Tinkercad images, and then create. I'm going to do it again. Code screenshots, and then create. And finally, PDFs, and then create. So now I have my 3 new folders, and what I want to do is I want to move all of my desktop and download folders into their correct folder. So the best thing to do, I don't have anything on my current desktop. If I were at Hamilton right now, I would, but I don't. But what I would do is I would open my screenshots for coding, my code screenshots folder, and all of my screenshots that are on my desktop and in my downloads folder. Yours will be down here. I'm going to go ahead and move them into that code screenshots folder. When I'm done, I'm going to go back to Mrs. Norris and do the same thing for Tinkercad. If I've been doing Tinkercad, if you haven't been doing Tinkercad yet, don't worry about it. But I'm going to drag and drop them into here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my PDFs. Okay, so again, the whole point is to not throw things away, but to keep ourselves organized. So once you've done that, once you've cleaned out your desktop and you've cleaned out your downloads folder, then what I would like for you to do is pause this tutorial. Make sure your drive is open because I'm going to be checking a few different things. I'm going to check to make sure you have a Tinkercad link on your bookmarks bar. I'm going to check your Scratch, your Draw.io, your Hour of Code. I'm going to check your download settings, and I'm going to check your drive folders. And then after I check your drive folders, I'm going to make sure that your desktop and your downloads folder are both clean. So they should have nothing in them. If you've already thrown things into the trash can and you don't want to move them, or you know you're not going to need them because they're not necessary anymore, then you can right click and empty your trash so that your trash is empty. So I'm going to be checking that as well. Okay, so these are all things that we're going to be checking. I'm going to be checking, and then I will give you a grade before you can move on to the next assignment.